Hey, I'm TJ and welcome to a journey of discovery. Thank you so much for joining in. I'm just going to go ahead and dive right into today's passage. It's coming from Luke chapter 10, and it is the story of Mary and Martha. And I'm sure that we've heard this story before, and I never grow tired of it, but I just love how it goes into great detail of showing how their lives contrast one another. So starting at verse 38, it says, "Now it happened as they went to a certain village, and a certain woman named Martha welcomed Jesus into her house. And she had a sister called Mary who sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word." Let's pause right there for a minute. So here we're being introduced to Mary and Martha. And in John chapter 5, verse 11, it talks about how Jesus really loves Mary and Martha and Mary really loves Jesus. So we're not showing like one person who doesn't have a great relationship with Jesus and one person who doesn't. We're showing, just life and the things that are going on around us and how we are to, keep Jesus as our focus. And that's exactly what it shows or depicts in verse 39. It says, "Mary sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word." Can I tell you that that's what our journey with the Lord looks like? That is our greatest aim, to sit at his feet and to hear his word. Let me tell you, this will be a lifelong journey with the Lord. This is our position, right? This is the lover's position. This is our position of rest, is to sit at the feet of Jesus and hear his voice, hear his words, hear his guidance, his instructions, his wisdom. This is what Mary chose. And it says in verse 40 that Martha was distracted with much serving. And she approached him and she said, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Therefore, tell her to help me." So Martha already thinks that she's chosen the right thing and she's trying to get Jesus to back her up. But if we go back in the beginning, it says Martha welcomed Jesus into her home. But it's Mary who sat at his feet. How many times have we welcomed Jesus into our lives, but yet we became so busy or so distracted doing other things? And sometimes those other things can be serving him, right? Like we're called to ministry, maybe in the church or in our neighborhood, in our city, and we're doing these things for God. But sometimes we get so busy that we forget that our position is to sit at his feet, to stay in close proximity with him, to not become so distracted or busy or just tired that we give Jesus our leftovers, or we give Jesus very little time because we're just so exhausted from the day of serving him. If we ever get to a place where serving him begins to infringe on our walk with him, where we are neglecting our first ministry, which is to sit at his feet and to hear his voice, then we need to go back and begin to take another look at what we are called to do, what Jesus is calling us to do in this season. Because let me tell you, when I first came here, I'm like, okay, I know that Jesus wants me to do X, Y, Z. And then I went ahead, and as soon as we got here and I got planted in this house and I found a church, I began to go into X, Y, Z. And next thing you know, I am overwhelmed. And I had to let some things go, because if I ever choose to do so much for him that it begins to infringe on my relationship with him, that I know that I've done too much, because Jesus will never call us to do something that will take away that time where we are in close proximity to him, having this relationship, this, first love. We have to invest in this relationship with him. So though Martha welcomed him, she was busy and distracted, and she wanted Jesus to stand up for her. And it goes on to say in verse 41 that Jesus answered her and said to her, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled about many things, but one thing is needed." Can I just repeat that? One thing is needed. And Mary has chosen the good part, which will not be taken from her. Can you imagine that when we choose Jesus, he stands up, he protects us, he guards us, because he says, I am not taking my relationship away from her. I'm not taking away the time that we spend together just to do these other things. And let me tell you, like, Martha wasn't, I don't want to say that she wasn't neglectful, because Martha loved Jesus and she recognized that there was a need. And so she stepped up, right, with a servant's heart to help take care of that need. So it's not like she was totally in the wrong. But yet Jesus was highlighting that Mary chose the right thing. Can I remind us that relationship is what matters the most to Jesus? Relationship is what matters the most. And sometimes we can carve out this time in the day and spend with Jesus, and it doesn't feel like things are being taken care of. It feels like we are neglecting some things, right? It feels like much isn't being accomplished. But let me tell you that, and I forgot what passage of scripture it is. It says that Jesus already knows what we have need of before we even ask. So Jesus already knows of those things that need to be taken care of. But when we put him first, when he becomes our one thing, as the scripture, describes it, then he will take care of those things even without us asking. So I just want to call us back to this secret place with the Lord, where he becomes our first ministry. Again, to sit at his feet, to hear what he has to say, to invest in relationship, because this is our heart posture. This is our heart posture, for our eyes to be fixed on Jesus. I want to be where you are, Jesus. Let that be our heart's cry. Let that be our heart's cry. I want to be where you are, Jesus. No matter what's going on around me, show me what our yes is in this season so that we can say no. Show us how to guard and protect our time with you, Jesus. Show us how to have joy in your presence, where being with you isn't a chore, where being with you isn't something to check off our to-do list, but that being with you rejuvenates us. Let there be a holy infatuation with you, Lord. Begin to restore relationship once more in us. Show us how to be Marys, because what I love is that in the retelling of this story, which is a true story, it is Mary who will be remembered as choosing the one good thing. Lord, let us be a people, a generation of Marys who are choosing to sit at your feet, who are choosing time with you, who are welcoming you into our lives, not just to say that we're Christian or that we love Jesus, right? Because so many of us carry this title, carry this name. So many of us, we do love you, Lord, but do we show it? do we pick you first? Are we distracted by other things, or are we being entertained by other things and not taking joy and delight in your presence? Lord, return us back to this rightful place where our eyes are fixed on you and where there is love being restored, love being nurtured, relationship growing, where we are being matured in your presence, where we are growing in your word. This is our inheritance. This is our resting place. This is the place where lovers dine and feast on you, Lord.